Okay, so picture this. A legendary city, practically mythical, swallowed by time.
Lost to the ages.
Yeah, and then, centuries later, rediscovered, but not in some grand, dramatic way. It's through whispers.
Whispers and stone.
Exactly. This is Vijayanagara, the city of victory, emerging from the mists of 14th century India.
A powerful empire arising in the south.
And what's really fascinating is Vijayanagara, it wasn't just some city. It was the heart, the vibrant heart of a vast empire.
Stretching from the Krishna River to the southern tip of India.
A retire lost empire. So we're dealing with a pretty big puzzle here. What kind of pieces are we using to put it together?
It's like a mosaic. We have these archaeological surveys, inscriptions, like whispers from the past, and then we have first-hand accounts, incredible stories from the people who actually walked those streets.
Oh, wow. So, like travelers. Who are we talking about here?
Individuals from Persia, Italy, Russia, even Portugal.
Wow, people from all over the world drawn to this city. That's amazing. Where do we even begin with a story this epic?
Well, we have to start with the man who brought Hampi, that's what the ruins of Vijayanagara are called today, back into the light.
Oh, a daring explorer, huh?
Picture this, 1800, Colin Mackenzie, a British engineer working for the East India Company, stumbles upon these incredible ruins, local tales, crumbling walls. He starts piecing together the city's story.
Wow, I can practically see him sketching those crumbling archways, listening to those local stories. It's a pretty romantic image.
It is, isn't it?
But it wasn't just whispers and sketches, right? You mentioned inscriptions and those traveler accounts.
Absolutely. Inscriptions on temples, monuments, photographs taken in the 19th century. Historians have used all of this, a diverse array of sources, to create this remarkably detailed picture of Vijayanagara.
That's incredible. You mentioned Vijayanagara was more than just a city. It was the heart of this empire.
The Vijayanagara Empire.
Right, the empire. What was that like?
It was incredibly diverse, a tapestry of languages, religions, powerful pre-existing kingdoms, all under the Vijayanagara banner.
So it wasn't just anchoring and impose their own culture. They embraced this diversity.
The Vijayanagara kings, known as Rayas, they really integrated traditions from the territories they conquered.
Huh, that's interesting. So where do we see that?
Especially in the architecture. Their temples, they incorporated elements from earlier dynasties, the Cholas, the Hoysalas, but they added their own distinctive Vijayanagara flair.
A blend of styles. Sounds beautiful. But ruling such a vast empire and so diverse, there had to have been challenges.
Oh, of course.
Rivals, conflicts.
Absolutely. They had formidable rivals, the Deccan sultanates to the north, Gajapati rulers of Orissa to the east.
So competition for land, resources.
Definitely. There was fierce competition for dominance. But it wasn't always war. There were some intriguing cultural exchanges that happened, too, between these different groups.
A melting pot of cultures, ambitious kings, rivals, stunning architecture. This is already an incredible story. But before we get into the rise and fall of the empire, I came across a detail that I found really interesting.
Oh, I'm curious.
Okay, so get this. Horses. They were the key to military power in Vijayanagara.
Ah, yes, the cavalry, control over horses, control over the battlefield.
But these horses weren't exactly local, were they?
You're right, they had to be imported. The Vijayanagara Empire relied heavily on horse trading with Arabia and Central Asia.
Wow. Imagine the caravans, laden with horses, traveling those vast distances, across deserts, mountains, to reach the empire.
It really shows the risks of the empire, doesn't it?
It does. So who were the key players in this horse trade?
The Arab traders, they controlled a lot of those trade routes. And then you had local communities of merchants called Kudirai Chettis, essentially horse merchants. They acted as intermediaries, connecting Vijayanagara with this, this essential equine supply.
Arab traders, local merchants, all these horses fueling the Vijayanagara war machine. This is fascinating.
It is.
What could disrupt an equation like that?
Well, imagine a new force arrives by sea in 1498, bringing technology that would change warfare forever.
1498, that's around the time the Portuguese were, doing all those voyages of discovery.
Exactly. The Portuguese, they arrived with their advanced military technology, muskets in particular.
Oh, wow. Muskets. It must have been a shock to encounter that kind of weaponry.
Imagine.
It's like bringing a gun to a sword fight. So how did this new technology impact, the existing power dynamics?
The Portuguese, their arrival, it definitely added a new layer of complexity to an already pretty volatile situation.
Right. But beyond the military might, we talked about those bustling markets, right?
Oh, the markets.
Yeah, what was flowing through those streets?
The markets of Vijayanagara, they were a sight to behold. Spices, textiles, exotic fruits, you name it, they had it.
Wow. A true marketplace. Anything and everything.
But there was one commodity that really stood out.
Let me guess. Gold.
Close. Precious stones.
Ah, sparkling jewels. So Vijayanagara was a hub for precious stones?
It was a symbol of the city's wealth and its status. They were traded far and wide, drawing merchants and travelers from, well, everywhere.
It sounds like a city brimming with wealth, splendor. But the Vijayanagara kingdom themselves, were they just focused on conquest or riches? Did they have other aspirations?
Well, let's consider Krishnadevaraya, the most renowned ruler of Vijayanagar.
Him again.
Yes, a skilled military strategist, but also he was a diplomat. He even wrote a book on statecraft called Amukta. In it, he emphasizes the importance of attracting foreign traders.
Oh, interesting. So he understood the importance of a strong economy.
He did. He knew that true power wasn't just military might, it was also about cultivating a flourishing economy.
So he was a philosopher king as well as a conqueror. We've got military power, trade, cultural exchange, all these elements intertwining to create this powerful and dynamic empire. It's really fascinating. But like every story, there are ups and downs.
Of course.
What led to the decline of this magnificent empire? It didn't just crumble overnight.
You're right, and the story of Vijayanagara's rise is captivating, but its fall is equally dramatic. It's a testament to how power can change, the currents of history, they're always shifting.
It sounds like we're about to enter a whole new chapter.
We are, one filled with intrigue, and perhaps even tragedy.
I can't wait to hear it.
That's a story for our next installment.
You're killing me. All right, fine. I can wait a little longer to hear about the dramatic twists and turns. Until next time.
Until next time. Welcome back. Last time we left the Vijayanagara Empire, well, on the rise. A vibrant blend of cultures, military prowess, and that thriving trade. Now let's uncover how it all came together and ultimately how it unraveled.
Okay, I'm ready for the drama. So who were these Vijayanagara kings? How did they build such a formidable empire?
It all began in 1336. With two brothers, Hariya and Buka, they laid the foundation for this extraordinary empire. Their dynasty, known as the Sangama dynasty, it marked the first chapter in a lineage of rulers who would shape Vijayanagara's destiny.
Two brothers uniting to create an empire. Classic start. But how did power transition? Was it always smooth?
Not always. Remember those Nayaka we talked about? The military chiefs granted land by the king. They played a pivotal role in the power struggles. This system, this delegated power, it was effective at first, but ultimately it planted the seeds for the empire's decline.
How so?
As the Nayaka grew more powerful and more dependent.
So the seeds of their strength and their downfall. Sown right from the beginning. That's fascinating. But I'm curious, what about those Nayaka in the transition of power after the Sangama dynasty?
Well, after the Sangamas, power shifted through the military commanders, first to the Saluvas and then to the Tuluvas.
Okay, so shifting allegiances, ambitious generals, a lot of political maneuvering.
It was a complex dance of power and ambition.
Real-life Game of Thrones. And speaking of powerful rulers, you mentioned that famous king Krishnadevaraya. He was a Tuluva, right?
Yes, Krishnadevaraya, he ruled from 1509 to 1529, and he's considered the embodiment of Vijayanagara's golden age.
So, a legendary ruler.
A brilliant military strategist, a shrewd diplomat, and a generous patron of the arts. He expanded the empire's boundaries, consolidated power, and left behind a legacy of breathtaking architecture.
What were some of his achievements, those magnificent temples we talked about? I imagine those played a role.
Absolutely. Krishnadevaraya, he was a prolific builder. He added those towering gopurams, those elaborate gateways with all the intricate carvings.
Yeah.
To many important South Indian temples, including the famous Virupaksha temple at Vijayanagara.
So not just building new temples, but enhancing the existing ones.
Exactly. He commissioned the construction of impressive new temples, palaces, even founded a whole township, Nagalapuram, in honor of his mother.
Oh, that's sweet. Not just a conqueror, but a builder and a patron of the arts. With a sentimental side. But if this was Vijayanagara's golden age, what led to its decline? Empires don't crumble overnight.
You're right. And as we mentioned, those seeds of decline, they were sown within its own structure. That Nayaka system, it had strengthened the empire initially, but gradually it began to unravel.
How so?
After Krishnadevaraya's death, those military chiefs, once loyal vassals, they became more and more independent. They started carving out their own domains within the empire.
So the empire started fragmented from within.
Yes.
But were there external forces at play as well? What about those rivals, the Deccan Sultanates, always vying for power?
The Deccan Sultanates, they were a constant threat, always testing Vijayanagara's boundaries. And as the empire weakened internally, the Sultanates sensed an opportunity. In 1565, a coalition of sultanates, recognizing this vulnerability, launched a full-scale assault.
Uh-oh. This doesn't sound good. Was this the final blow for the empire?
Sadly, it was the beginning of the end. The decisive battle, it took place at Ratchasi Tangadi, also known as Talakota.
And?
The Vijayanagara army, they were known for their cavalry, but they were outmaneuvered. The result was a devastating defeat.
Wow, I can't imagine such a mighty force being defeated like that. So what happened next?
The victorious sultanates, they sacked the city of Vijayanagara, left it in ruins. It was a turning point in South Indian history. It marked the end of an era.
A tragic end to such a magnificent empire. But, you mentioned earlier that the relationship between Vijayanagara and the sultanates wasn't always hostile?
Right.
What did you mean by that?
It was far more nuanced than just a clash between a Hindu kingdom and Muslim sultanates. There were alliances, intermarriages, even instances where they supported each other in succession disputes.
Wow, really?
It transcended religious boundaries. In fact, Krishnadevaraja himself, he had the title establisher of the Yavana kingdom.
Yavana.
It's a term that encompassed foreigners, including Muslims. It shows a level of cultural acceptance and political pragmatism that we might not expect.
So it wasn't really about religion. It was more about political strategy, power dynamics.
Exactly. A complex game of shifting allegiances, strategic maneuvering. That final confrontation at Talakota, it was a culmination of all of that, not a simple clash of civilizations.
It's a good reminder that history is rarely black and white. There are always shades of gray, complexities, contradictions. But let's shift our focus to the physical city itself, Vijayanagara. You mentioned impressive fortifications. What did those walls look like? How vast was the city?
Imagine a sprawling city, nestled in a natural basin, formed by the Tungabhadra River, with towering granite hills as a backdrop.
Sounds beautiful.
The Vijayanagara kings, they used this natural landscape to their advantage when it came to the city's defenses.
So they fortified it.
They spared no expense. We're talking 7 lines of fortifications. Some of them even enclosed agricultural land.
7 lines of walls. That's incredible. But why enclose the farmland? Wouldn't it be easier to just store grain?
Storing grain was common, but the Vijayanagara kings, they were thinking ahead. Sieges could last for months, even years. By incorporating farmland, they ensured a sustainable food supply, even during a prolonged siege.
That's some serious foresight. What did these walls look like?
Massive masonry walls, slightly tapered, and get this, constructed without mortar or cement.
Wait, no mortar.
The stones were wedge-shaped, meticulously fitted together, and then the inner portion of the wall was filled with earth, packed with rubble.
Wow, that's amazing. No mortar, and they still stand today.
A testament to the skill of the Vijayanagara builders. These walls were designed to withstand anything.
Impressive. Did those walls encircle the entire city?
Not quite. It was protected by layers of fortifications, each with a specific purpose. The outermost wall, the one enclosing the farmland, connected the hills surrounding the city. Then a second line encircling the urban core, and finally a third line protecting the royal center, the heart of the empire.
A city within a city within a city, each layer with its own defense.
Precisely. And within the royal center, each major building, palaces, temples, they all had their own high walls. Security and control were clearly important.
It sounds like they were ready for anything. What about the gateways? There had to be some impressive entrances.
The gateways, they were architectural masterpieces, often adorned with carvings, sculptures, a showcase for the Vijayanagara craftsmen.
Okay, I'm really getting a sense of the grandeur. But we've talked a lot about walls and fortifications. What about the city itself? What was it like to actually walk those streets?
That's a fantastic question, and one that takes us deeper into the heart of this lost metropolis. But I think that's a story best saved for our next installment.
You're killing me. Fine, I can wait a little longer to explore those hidden corners and bustling streets. Until next time.
Until next time.
Okay, so we're back and ready to finally step inside the city itself. Last time we were talking about those impressive fortifications. Now I'm ready to see what life was like within those walls, especially those bustling markets, the ones we touched upon earlier.
Ah, yes, those markets, those traveler accounts, they offer these vivid glimpses into daily life.
So what was it like to live in Vijayanagara? Did people have, grand homes, street food vendors,
Well, the homes of ordinary people, they were mostly built from materials that haven't survived. Wood, thatch, things like that. But archaeological excavations, they've revealed some clues.
Oh, like what?
Shrines, artifacts, things like Chinese porcelain have been found throughout the urban core.
Chinese porcelain. All the way in Vijayanagara.
It suggests a vibrant mix of cultures and a thriving trade network.
So even though those everyday homes are gone, we know those inhabitants were connected to the wider world. It's like globalization isn't such a modern concept after all.
Exactly. Vijayanagara was a major hub. in this vast network of trade and cultural exchange.
That's incredible. What else have they found?
There's evidence of a Muslim quarter, further highlighting that diversity, and here's where it gets interesting. There are architectural parallels between the mosques and the temple mandavas,
Mantabus.
pillared halls, often used for gatherings, ceremonies.
Oh, right. So even in sacred spaces, we see that blending of styles, influences. It's not as simple as just, separate communities.
It challenges that idea, doesn't it?
It does. It's a reminder that the past is often more complex, more interconnected than we think. But for now, let's move beyond those streets, those diverse neighborhoods, and head towards the royal center. I'm ready for palaces, temples, all that splendor.
Ah, the royal center. It wasn't just luxury. It was a carefully crafted landscape of power and symbolism. And within this area, we've identified, approximately 30 building complexes that we consider palaces.
30. That's a lot of palaces.
Grand in scale and design. And unlike the temples, these palaces, they weren't primarily focused on religious functions.
So if the temples were built for permanence, what about the palaces? What materials did they use?
Well, the temples were entirely stone, but the palaces, they had superstructures made from perishable materials. This suggests, they were more about expressing power and authority within their historical context, not meant to last forever.
That makes sense. So what's left of these grand palaces?
We have the stone platforms, the courtyards, the foundations. They give us a glimpse of their former grandeur.
All right, I'm approaching the royal center. What's the first thing that would have caught my eye?
One of the most prominent features is the complex known as the King's Palace. But don't picture a fairy tale castle.
Oh.
It's more accurate to describe it as a series of massive platforms.
Less Cinderella, more Game of Thrones.
Exactly. And within this complex, two platforms stand out. The first, believed to be the audience hall. This high platform, it's riddled with slots for wooden pillars.
So there was a second story.
Likely. But those pillars are positioned so close together, there wouldn't have been much space. Its true purpose remains a bit of a mystery.
Oh, I love a good mystery. What about the other platform?
Ah, that's the Mahanavami Dibba, a structure you wouldn't want to miss. Imagine a colossal platform, rising 40 feet high.
40 feet? That's massive. What was it for?
It likely supported a wooden structure, and its base is adorned with intricate carvings. Historians believe it was used for grand ceremonies, military inspections, displays of power, especially during the Mahanavami festival.
Wow, I can just imagine the processions, elephants and jewels, acrobats maybe.
It must have been quite a spectacle. But here's another detail. The space surrounding the platform, it doesn't seem large enough to accommodate that kind of pageantry. So its function, it's still debated.
Maybe it was for a smaller audience. Or maybe those carvings hold clues we haven't deciphered yet. I love how these unanswered questions keep us guessing.
Exactly. Always more to uncover. More layers to peel back.
So what other intriguing structures did you find in the Royal Center?
We have the Lotus Mahal, a name given by those romantically inclined British travelers.
The Lotus Mahal. Sounds peaceful.
It's a beautiful building with arches, some Indo-Islamic influences there. But its purpose is still debated. Some say a council chamber, others a pleasure palace.
Maybe a place to relax. After a long day of ruling from those platforms. Speaking of which, those elephants we imagined, they must have needed their own royal accommodations. Did you find any elephant stables?
We did, not far from the Lotus Mahal. A structure with massive arched openings, perfect for those majestic animals.
I could almost hear the echoes of their trumpeting. But let's move on from the royal center to the spiritual heart of Vijayanagara.
The sacred center. It offers a glimpse into the spiritual life of this empire.
Take me there. What was it like?
Well, first you have to understand the history. Even before Vijayanagara, this site was considered sacred. Shrines to Virupaksha, a form of Shiva, and Pampadevi, the local goddess. And Jaina temples, too. It was a spiritual center for a long time.
So the Vijayanagara rulers, they deliberately chose this location to tap into that existing energy.
Exactly, and they enhanced it. Remember how the kings claimed to rule on behalf of Virupaksha? That belief played a role in their temple building, too.
So it wasn't just about pretty buildings, it was about power, aligning themselves with the gods.
Precisely. Those Raya Gopurams, those massive gateways, symbols of authority and piety, they intentionally dwarfed the central shrines. A bold statement.
It's amazing how architecture can convey those messages. Which temples were the most impressive?
The Virupaksha temple and the Vithla temple. The Virupaksha temple, it has a long history. Inscriptions suggest its earliest shrine might date back to the 9th or 10th century, but it was the Vijayanagara kings who really expanded it.
What do they add?
Krishnadeva Raya, he added a magnificent hall, in front of the main shrine. Rows of intricately carved pillars, the eastern Gopuram too, made the temple even more imposing.
He really liked his temples, didn't he? What about the Vittala temple?
The Vittala temple, it's dedicated to Vikala, a form of Vishnu, popular in the Maharashtra region.
Oh, interesting. So different regions, different deities.
It shows how the Vijayanagara rulers incorporated these diverse deities into their imperial cult. Another example of that cultural pluralism.
Creating a pantheon, reflecting the diversity of their empire. What a smart way to foster unity. What else can we learn from these temples?
They weren't just places of worship, they were vibrant hubs, social, cultural life, music, dance, drama, even deity marriages, and swings for the gods.
Wait, swings for the gods.
It's a fascinating example of how they integrated their beliefs into everyday life. They believed the gods enjoyed the same pleasures as humans, so swings, pavilions, where the deities could, metaphorically speaking, relax.
That's a beautiful image. I can practically hear the music, the laughter. But how do we know all this? Palaces, temples, markets. How do you reconstruct a city lost for centuries?
That's where the archaeologists come in. Colin Mackenzie, his mapping in the 1800s was just the beginning. In the 1980s, a major project was launched to document the remnants of Vijayanagara. They divided the city into grids, every structure, every pathway, every stone, carefully recorded.
That's some serious dedication, like putting together a giant jigsaw puzzle.
A great analogy. And through this work, they were able to map out thousands of structures, roads, marketplaces, a detailed picture of the city's layout and its scale.
It's amazing how much we can learn from those ruins. But let's not forget those traveler accounts. Those descriptions of the marketplaces.
Oh, they're fascinating. We have descriptions from travelers like Domingo Pais, Fernão Nunes. They were clearly awestruck by the sheer abundance, variety.
Give me the details. What were they selling?
Imagine streets overflowing, with spices, textiles, fruits, precious stones, even a wide variety of meats. Pais called it the best provided city in the world. You could find anything.
A shopper's paradise. We've explored the palaces, the temples, the markets, the power, the belief, the commerce, all those things that made Vijayanagara so dynamic. But I have one question.
What's that?
We talked about the kings, the elites, the grand achievements. What about the ordinary people? The artisans, the laborers, the families? What were their lives like? What do they think about all of this?
That's a question that continues to intrigue historians. Sadly, the voices of ordinary people, they're often lost, especially in a society as hierarchical as Vijayana. But their stories are out there, waiting to be discovered. In fragments of pottery, maybe, or in the echoes of their songs, their stories passed down through generations.
It's a good reminder. History isn't just about kings and conquests. It's about people, their hopes, their struggles, their everyday moments.
Well said. As we explore Vijayanagara, we must remember those who built it. Their stories are part of its fabric.
So as we wrap up our deep dive, it's clear Vijayanagara is more than just ruins. It's a testament to human ingenuity, resilience, the human spirit.
It is. And while we've learned so much, there are still mysteries, questions to ponder. Who knows what new discoveries await us?
Perhaps one day we'll hear those whispers from the past more clearly and understand those who walked those streets, built those temples, dreamed those dreams.
Until then, the pursuit of knowledge continues.
That's the beauty of history, a journey without end. So to our listeners, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep imagining. Who knows what you might uncover?